in Living at Risk, my mom mentioned, well, the general idea that I had to fight for something, right? And that I should keep on fighting for it. That it's this group of things like freedom and social justice and stuff like that. And it's hard to try to be attached to those ideals, not because they're hard. It's hard to keep those principles within one's self, but because of the whole thing that happened after the revolution and after the 80s and during the 90s and even now. I have maybe carried it on, my education and my formation, my work, in a way that it's set up so I can get to fight for those things that my mom mentioned, But I don't know if the current settings allow for a space to do anything about it. And that's the sad thing, and one of the centerpieces of my generation's frustration. My dad and my mom did everything. I think they really did everything they could. And I envy the level of involvement that they had. They were so young. I mean, they were younger than I am right now when all this thing happened. I mean, and I if I could read people's hearts, people my age, I'm positive I'm not the only one who thinks, man, they really did a lot of things. And they were good things. And they were incredibly, unselfish reasons behind all what they were doing. And to some extent, we're all envy. We have a little bit of envy. I read the other day a guy, he was like 18-year-old, I think. It was in La Prensa. And he said something like, well, I mean, we just don't have we don't have a clear view of what we can do or who can we fight. It's very hard to channel the energy if you don't have a vehicle, and we really don't have one at this point. By knowing you belong to a family of revolutionaries, you're part of it. You're part of it. All my cousins, By default, the default option is you are a Sandinista. So, like I was mentioning before, I mean, the process of discovering when you're not that attached to it it varies for everybody. But in my case, was through economic rationale. That was my case. There are other ways of saying, wait a minute, maybe I'm not completely, on board with this set of ideas. And I'm not saying that I suddenly became, free market is the way, this and that. No, but then you start being a little bit more critical about things, that way things were done. I can't think that there wasn't enough of warning signs that the planned economy was not the way to develop. You can't just slice, the pie, give it to everybody. You can't do it once. Next year there's going to be no pie. And the whole selfishness in which is or the accumulation ideal, which is at the core of capitalism, it's what, you know, allows the market to work, and allows innovation, and allows more production. And of course, it also allows, sadly, that some people get immensely rich, and some people just, you know, barely change their standard of living. But if somebody can come up with a better option, I'm all ears. During the 80s, it was a proxy war of ideological origins, you know, against a very powerful enemy. And then why do we have to be a proxy? You know, why? True, I mean, we are in what some people call the US backyard. True. You know, the Soviet Union back then was, I don't know, on the other side of the world. But why did you have to align with either? Why couldn't you just do your revolution and take the best from each? Why do you have to become so radical?